And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. It's time for Opinion Court. Please do get in touch with us as you are already doing. The hashtag is Opinion Court. That's as one word. You can use that on social media at Citizen TV Kenya, at Citizen TV News if you're on Twitter. On Facebook, we go by similar names. My handle is at Ann Kiguta. That's Ann with an E. And if you're texting us 22422, that's the SMS line. Let me reintroduce my panel to you. Across from me is the Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Aden Duwale. Next to him, Jakoyo Midiwo, the Deputy Minority Leader. Next to me is Chris Wamalwa. He's a Court Legislator. And in the middle is Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst. Today we're discussing whether the President is abusing his veto power and fundamentally altering legislation as the Court Coalition believes. I'll start with you, Jakoyo. Why do you think that is the case? What's the evidence?
Because Article 115 of the Constitution, 3, says that the President can only express reservation. The Speaker of the National Assembly has issued guidelines, a ruling, to say that how you go about the reservation that is expressed by the President as CORD, and as many people in Jubilee that I know today, we disagree with that position, because what the President has done on many bills is return them with recommendations, and the Constitution is very clear. It has no other word. It just says reservations, and it says if Parliament agrees with him, then it is you need simple majority, which you just need quorum, 50 members. But if you disagree fundamentally, then you need 2/3 majority. What the Speaker has done and what we have done before, we rarely disagree fundamentally. We don't even disagree, but we amend and keep the spirit of it. I know for a fact, I have been in Parliament for 13 years. We have passed many such reservations by just amending it, so it accommodates both parties, and you need simple majority. Right. What the Speaker of National Assembly has done in his ruling, he has said that in his opinion, if in his opinion it needs 2/3 majority. Remember, the Speaker is Jubilee, and I know that the Speaker cannot disagree with the President. So when it is convenient for the President and Duale and the Speaker says, in the opinion of the Speaker, like they did yesterday, this requires 2/3 majority. And I find that the Constitution and the law is so clear that there's no role of the Speaker in the President's reservation. But they have done it in a way that now there is a law on top of a law, which law we have gone to court as CORD to contest. We need a clear interpretation.
All right. Honorable Duale, you've disputed the same. Why?
What my colleague and the CORD coalition is saying is just pure politics. And it's good I have an opportunity tonight. I did it on the floor of the House. I have an opportunity tonight to tell Kenyans. Number one, what is the genesis of Article 115 of the Constitution? Subtitled Referral and Assent, or President's Referral and Assent. The framers of the Constitution and the people of Kenya, and this Article 115 is a replica of Article 46 in the old Constitution. The framers of the Constitution and the people of Kenya had a deliberate reason why they introduced Article 115 for the application by the presidency. Members of the National Assembly drew their powers of oversight, legislation, representation from Article 94. The same for the Senate, Article 96. In the event, the President represents the people of Kenya. He got popular mandate. And in the event, because that legislative power given to the legislators is not absolute. In the event they abuse that, in the event that the president feels that a certain section of that law has been abused, then the president, the law gives him, and that's why we call it a referral. That gives the president. President Kibaki used it, President Moore used it, President Kenyatta used it, President Uhuru is using now, and any other president, until and unless a constitutional amendment to Article 115 is brought. And that is the best route for my colleagues.
Gives them the power to issue reservation.
Let me now come to the gist of it. In a scenario where the legislature colludes with the executive and the president assent to it, where even the legislator has abused powers, and it happened to the media, then the next recourse for the citizens of this country is to go to court and say certain sections of this law is not in the interest of the stakeholders or the citizens. And that's why even the security law, part of it was annulled. And that's why we have the judiciary to interpret law.
But can I put his question to you, sir, which is that Article 115 gives the president power to issue reservations and not make recommendations.
Absolutely.
Is there a difference?
Absolutely. Now when we come to Article 115, the president makes a reservation in this form. The president can say in the original text of the bill, if that bill was amended by the committee of the House, and in the case of yesterday, the committee amended the 4 items. The president, because it was a revenue bill, the president said that this is not in the interest and it violates Section 40, subsection 5A of the PFM Act.
That's the reservation.
No. It says this is a bill. So I am saying that's the reservation. So Parliament again, as the representative of the people, have been given 2 powers. You can disagree with the president. If you disagree with the president, then a certain threshold has been set by the Constitution of 2/3 majority.
Right.
If in the event your amendment does not fundamentally disagree with the president's reservation, is what Honorable Jakoya said, then you need only 50 members.
Right. Honorable Wamalwa, because I know you share Jakoya's sentiments, explain the difference between reservations and recommendations, which is what court believes the president is doing, and in doing so overstepping his mandate.
I think before I explain, I need to clarify that when you read Article 94 of the Constitution, the legislative authority of this country is actually vested in Parliament. Okay, that is the Senate and the National Assembly. And why we are saying that His Excellency the President is abusing his powers or the privilege as stipulated in Article 115, and if you look at the title of Article 115, it says assent and reservations. That's what it says. There's nowhere about recommendations. And when you go down further, it says the president can either assent or refuse. And in case he rejects, he's supposed to give his reservations and give a memorandum back to the National Assembly for purposes of reconsideration. That is the word. That's how the Constitution reads. It does not say the president recommends. Now, the difference between reservations and recommendations, when it comes to reservations, you are giving reasons why you think it's not fit to assent. Maybe because of aspects of unconstitutionality. You have to specify so that you take it back to the floor of the House for purposes of reconsideration, but not recommendation. And what the president has been doing, he has been recommending. That means he has been legislating through the back door, usurping the powers of Parliament. In many other jurisdictions, if you see the probability of reservations, they are used sparingly. For example, in the United States, it's about 1 to 2%. In this country, His Excellency the President has been abusing those powers as Article 115 because almost 99% of all legislations have been coming back to the floor of the House. And remember, before any legislation goes up to the final stage, it's a process. Article 118 of the Constitution talks about the issue of involving the public as far as legislation is concerned. You've involved the public, you've involved the CIC, you've involved the AG. So the probability of unconstitutionality is actually very, very minimal.
And yet the media laws were passed. With all
the media laws were not passed.
With all of that,
like the Privileges Committee.
If you were to go specifically, I think to 2 years ago, the president actually had, the first time we had this circus on the media laws, the president actually had to veto it. Even after going through all that process, there was yet unconstitutionality, and the first time the media were saved, if you like, from the snares of Parliament.
I think the issue was on the kicker bill, which the president had actually assented. It is the opposition code who came and said no, it was unconstitutional. So whatever you're saying, Anne, I think you are wrong. The time of the kicker bill, initially, if you remember very well, His Excellency the President had gone ahead to assent. It is the opposition actually who came out. Look at the security bills. The opposition had to go to court for purposes of interpretation. So at this particular juncture, because of the abuse in line with Article 115, that's why court has gone to court for purposes of interpretation, because it's being abused. We're already in court.
I think we'll come back. They moved to court today.
Absolutely.
So we'll come back to the specifics of the various pieces of legislation. And again, I'll quote, you know, the media law in reference to your challenge. But, Prof, let me come to you. The question of expressing reservation, 115 does not also explicitly say that a recommendation cannot be made. And in as such, it may be cheeky and backdoor, but the point is the president would be exploiting a loophole. So whose fault is that? Or taking advantage? Fair enough, but is that necessarily unconstitutional, and should the onus then not be on Parliament to seal that loophole?
Thank you, Anne. I think the starting point for this debate should be Article 131. Which the majority leader didn't talk about, even the code legislators here, including the whip, didn't talk about. So Article 131 talks about the authority of the president. Among other things, the president is supposed to protect the sovereignty of the nation, the rule of law, the diversity of the country, and also, you know, the constitution. So when the president gives reservations, that is the starting point. The reservations should only have one weapon. He should only carry one weapon in his hand, the Constitution. So he uses the Constitution as a weapon to express the reservations. And he uses that to say, this one is like this one is like that. Now, by definition, from the point of view of the English language, reservation means skepticism, doubt, misgivings. So he will say, I have misgivings about this clause, and the reason why I have these misgivings is because it violates a specific aspect of the Constitution. Now, the other part remains to Parliament now to pick up from there. The President has said it violates the Constitution, which we have seen. So let us insert something that is not hostile to the Constitution, and when we do that, we return it with that kind of thing. So that is the order we should take on.
Right.
Now, once you finish that, you will not have problems with 115. The reservation story is finished. There is nothing that the president is taking advantage of. It's just that he has to make comments, but he uses only one tool, the supreme law, which is the Constitution. So if Parliament is passing laws which are unconstitutional, he just says, you have passed this one, but it violates the Constitution, because that's what controls the relationship between the President and the Parliament.
Has he gone beyond that into fundamentally altering?
I think, and that is the point I'm coming to. If you look at our President, he must be a very frustrated person. The reason, Anne, that I'm saying this is specifically this, that our President, looking at the situation in which he has been operating over the last 3 years, maybe now we are almost going to the next general election. Over the last 3 years, Parliament has been passing unconstitutional laws and taking them to the President. At one time, the President has had the embarrassment of looking at a law where Parliament says pass it, just like the recent bill on the media, where he said this is not right. Now that frustration alone, Anne, has shown the president is losing confidence in parliament. And because he's losing confidence, there is a vacuum. He has to make a recommendation for the sake of the country to make sure that that recommendation says, you guys are fond of passing bad laws. I have expressed this is unconstitutional, but now to help you because you are fond of making bad laws, you do A, B, C, D. And that is what the president is doing. And if that serves the country, the better, because this parliament, I think you know what it has done. Yeah. It has been passing very unconstitutional laws.
Let me cite some of them to Jacoyo Midio. I mean, it includes raising your own salaries, unilaterally threatening to send home the SRC if they were to talk about it, passing unconstitutional media laws. Now there's a Kenyan law that is there, you know, seeking to give diplomatic passports, among other things, to, you know, your spouses, etc. Do you not think that somebody does need to step in and crack the whip in Parliament? How do you toe the line, as Prof is saying?
Well, again, I think the Prof is out of order. You know, he cannot say that the president should use only one tool and encourage him to break the law. There's only one body in that document which is mandated to make law. It is Parliament. You can only express reservations. You cannot recommend. And you said...
Does it say explicitly that you cannot recommend?
It does not say implicitly he can recommend either. The law, you know, shall. We knew the shenanigans that politicians pull in this country. So the word of the Constitution everywhere, actually, in just about every article, is shall. It shall. In this case, the president has told he can make reservation. Let me give you an example. The law which was passed yesterday, you know, instead of talking about semantics, let's talk about the substance. One of the reservations the president expressed was about tax collection on cigarettes. The committee and the Treasury had agreed on 4-tier, actually just the committee, with the stakeholders, the committee, not the Treasury, a 4-tier level of tax collection. The president did say in his memo that it is cumbersome using those 4 formulas. So the committee reduced it to 2 levels, 2 formulas. Looking at that, the committee has not disagreed with the president. The committee has actually kept the spirit, because it said that if you look at the memo, you know, you can look at it any way, but let me tell you, in the last parliament, there was what you call County Government Act, that when Honorable Musalia was the Minister for Local Government, and this is something I participated in, he brought a law, this County Government Act, that seemed to propose that the counties would have police and police powers. And the president expressed reservations. When we came to Parliament, I consulted with the Speaker. We said, how then do we give these people money and give all the power to the governor without some kind of security? The Speaker issued a ruling. That ruling is in Parliament, which these people don't want to hear of. It says, if you keep the spirit, what did we do? We created a county security committee, which is chaired by the governor, but the secretary to that committee is the OCPD. The law said OCPD because that is who we had then. And then it went to President Kibaki. He said it was within the spirit of what he was saying.
If you would, sir, just give the example of the one where you feel the president has fundamentally altered the intention of the law, and then I'll have you, Honorable Dwale, respond.
This specific, this particular one, even in the security,
has given the security. But let me come to this issue. You know, now we're dealing with Article 114. Article 114, and it's found in the Constitution. The framers of the Constitution had made sure that all institutions have checks and balance, that there are roadblocks. And Article 114 and the judiciary are 2 arms of the judicial arm of government and Article 114 to be used by the president in the event that parliamentarians abuse their legislative authority. That we can't run away from. That is what the framers, and I'm one of them. There are instances where...
So you are agreeing with me?
I'm agreeing. There are instances where legislators can. I mean, a good example is the Canaan bill. I mean, I was one of the people who supported. So what happens where legislators...
supported it?
Yes. No, I was against it. We opposed it.
Oh, you opposed it?
We opposed it. So, but we didn't have the numbers. So, I want to ask a question.
You didn't have the numbers?
No.
When have you never not had the numbers?
No, it depends on it. It was a private member's bill anyway. It was a government bill. But let me not lose the track. What happens when parliamentarians abuse their legislative powers? And their legislative authority is not absolute. This must come out very clearly. Even you and me, under the Bill of Rights, our rights are not absolute. Our rights can injure others. So come to 115. When the president gives a reservation, let me even use the example used of the cigarette. Cigarettes in our country, across all brands and everywhere in the world, because all brands of cigarettes have a harmful effect to the health of the nation, their taxation is always standard. Now what Parliament was trying to do was to create two strata for the low brands and the high brands. And the president says, no, this we are getting out of the norm. Now, I don't want to discuss the communication of my speaker. I have a lot of respect for him. Now, that particular bill is a money bill. So any amendment that comes to the House, the speaker has the sole authority, in consultation with his staff, to check whether it can be subjected to Article 114 of the Constitution.
Right.
And when it's subjected, let me finish. When it's subjected, he gave himself the authority. 114 is not, Article 114 is not a creation of the Jubilee Coalition. Article 115 is not a creation. It is the people of Kenya in 2010 who felt a rogue parliament. Let me even use that word. It has been in the media. How do you sustain a rogue parliament from the citizens? If the president, there are situations where the executive and also the president might not even use Article 114 and agrees with his colleagues in the political class. That's why, again, the next roadblock is the judiciary. That Kenyans can go to the judiciary and say our rights have been abused.
Fair enough.
So in a nutshell,
I think your point has been made.
In a nutshell,
purely a preserve, if you like, of the Jubilee administration. If Court was to win the next election, their president would be enjoying it. I have to cut short. Let's take a look at the feedback, and I'll come round for a final round of views. Let's see what you're saying about our debate. Yes, the president should respect the independence of Parliament. The president is within the Constitution. It's all people who do not have knowledge of the Katiba. The executive should allow the Parliament to democratically legislate rather than use those powers. I will come to each one of you with your final round of views. Chris, I know you wanted to contribute specifically to where you feel the president, overstepped his mandate. And if you would also, is the bottom line not the fact that there is a loophole in the Constitution and that as legislators, you're the ones who can fix it?
Yeah, that's true. I think Article 115, there's a loophole. At that particular level, we need to come up with a constitutional amendment so that whatever the reservations or the issue of recommendations, they come out explicitly so that there's no confusion. But where the president has missed, I want to particularly cite the public audit bill, which he has actually assented. Which has brought actually a lot of controversy. The public audit, this is about the Auditor General, the issue of independence. This is the issue of independence, wanted to erode it away from the independence of the public audit. We've seen even earlier on the division of revenue, till the time the Senate had to go to Supreme Court for purposes of interpretation. And the president had assented to that issue because we didn't involve at that particular time, we never involved the Senate. And at this particular time, all the pieces of legislation that have been passing, more than 90%, the president has been returning them. And you need to understand the legislative process. Many key stakeholders are involved, including the CIC, including the AG. So the probability of unconstitutionality is really minimal.
If that's the case, why not just use the 2/3 then? Raise the quorum.
Now, the issue of the 2/3
to reject whatever the president proposes.
The issue of 2/3, and I'm sorry, with due respect to my majority leader, you know, when we were legislating, I think on this issue in Parliament, he was busy whipping people so that we don't get the 2/3.
That's my function.
But that's
which is actually very wrong. No, it is wrong.
That's
because you can't do it in code. You can't do it away. And where the issues are problems, so that you don't get the quorum. You see, that was very wrong. We must debate objectively, legislate actually objectively.
But you have to be fair, Chris. It was the other way around.
No, I don't think so. When we are coming to the issues of legislation, we should put aside our political differences so that we pass legislation for posterity.
Fair enough. Jacoyo, why not raise the 2/3 and tell Mr. President we don't agree, especially these pieces of legislation as popular as you would want Kenyans to believe?
First of all, I do not believe there is a lacuna in the law.
Okay.
Absolutely. The president is abusing the law. Period. Number two, the import of what we did yesterday, which is what the TV stations or the radio should be spending time on doing, by us being forced to do what we did yesterday, and this is the walkout and the whole 9 yards. This is the first time actually where a party contradicts its chairman. You know, the chair of Finance Committee is the Jubilee chairman. You know, this they should have sorted out in their house. No. But it came to the floor. Now, let me tell you,
the chairman of
the import
parliamentary committee,
but the border taxes that you see now rampant everywhere have to pay excise duty fee of across the board 10,000 shillings. Number two, there's duty on juice or juices and sodas. The price of sodas will go up by 43%.
No, you're misinforming.
Then, number three, the vehicles that Chris, Jacoyo, and Duale drive, the big ones, excise duty has dropped by about 70%. And the smaller ones, the excise duty, what you would drive on, the excess duty has gone up. You know,
why are you confining me to a small car, first of all?
because
I'm taking exception to
no,
that statement.
I would.
Fair enough.
Yes,
That was a light note. If you would.
It was a light note, but let me say what your cameraman would drive.
You don't know.
Ordinary Kenyans. Ordinary Kenyans.
It's even worse.
Yes.
Why do you assume the cameraman can't drive a
If you would
car?
allow him to make it. Just leave the car issue alone.
Yeah. No, but it's the truth. It's the truth in the law. That's what they've done. Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
Let me make it only three fundamentals very close. Number one, Article 95, Article 115. It's called, even in the U.S., the veto of the president. President Obama used it recently on the Iran deal.
Right.
So every constitution, every democratic constitution in the world, you'll have a replica of Article 115. For now, the president is Uhuru Kenyatta. He will use it until a constitutional amendment is done. The rest are shenanigans. Two, the rest, you see, is political shenanigans. Two, absolute authority, legislative authority of parliament must be checked, and that is why the framers of the constitution felt the essence of Article 115. Number three, when court goes to court, there is nothing unusual. There's nothing new. Every Kenyan, everywhere, including my mom, she's 87 years old, she has a constitutional right to challenge any law passed by parliament now and in the future. So what we are saying is, you know, even the so-called title, you know, I was hearing Honorable Wamalwa, you know, I don't work for court. I am the leader of majority on the Jubilee coalition, and I have a constitutional mandate. Even in the U.S., that's why you have the minority and the majority. So whether you are called, there's nothing called by partisan.
There's nothing called by partisanship?
Yes. A number of times, let me tell you, a number of times.
Wow.
A number of times.
Would you not want by partisanship on pieces of legislation that you think are important to the country?
Can you imagine? Can I finish? Can I finish? At times will come in parliamentary legislation where the two coalitions, one in government, one preparing an alternative government, will collide. What happens? Even in the U.S., That's why today in the U.S. the majority is a Democrat, is a Republican. The leader of majority is from the Republican. So what I'm saying is, fundamentally, that not only 115, if you feel there are a number of issues in the Constitution, you can do a popular constitutional amendment, like the Okoa Kenya. I hope the 1.4 million signatures is real. Or
no, we are not like people. We don't fake.
No, it's 335.
It's still nothing. It's still nothing.
And secondly, the function of Honorable Wamalwa and Jacoy and myself is legislation to bring an amendment to Article 115. You know, when you see legislators abdicating their role, and every time when there's a serious issue in the House, say, we shall go to court. And finally, the tyranny. The tyranny is drawn from the people's popular mandate. It's not Honorable Duale who created it. It's the people of Kenya who gave Jubilee the presidency and the numbers.
Fair enough. Professor, the bottom line.
The bottom line is this. On matters, I started by saying that the starting point for this discussion should be the Constitution. Both sides of the Parliament, you have a duty and an obligation to the Republic to use the Constitution correctly, interpret it correctly, and then legislate according to that document. But once you give your own personal views, you vary. So on that part, you should be the same. Then secondly, what I would like to say is that there is no problem with the Constitution. The President can take his own reservations to Parliament, but what the people of Kenya expect from Parliament is Parliament must legislate according to the Constitution. And if they think that what the President is doing is wrong, Parliament can legislate and show how wrong the President is. I don't think by the President changing and making certain comments, he has taken away the power of Parliament to legislate. So they cannot walk away like the opposition walked away. The act of walking away was frivolous. They should never walk away from legislation. You know, they were going to the streets as they were moving, but the business of the House is supposed to be done in the House. They have a duty to stay there and mobilize each other. That the President has brought these recommendations, but we don't agree with them. So what is the next constitutional move? And they must utilize that constitutional move in the floor of the House up to the end, exhaust the avenues, and then before they come to tell us the President is abusing power, he hasn't.
Thank you all for your views.
Are normal in parliamentary parlance. I mean, Prof,
would you believe?
I know you are from outside, but that's not right.
I'm not from outside, I'm inside Kenya.
We're back with more news. We're back with more news after these messages.